Sure.
Over to you, Laura, for your final case study.
Great, thank you. Perfect. I thought it was good for me just to take a step back and recognize my personal objectives for Product MBA and why I signed up for the last 8 weeks. And for me, it really was around kind of, yeah, learning the principles of product management, gaining that real hands-on experience, developing my skills, understanding my strengths, but also building the confidence and growing my network to kind of take on the next steps of this journey. So quite a lot of ambition and goals with the last 8 weeks. And I guess, yeah, doing this case study on reflection has been quite validating on how far I've come, which is amazing. Just thought it would be nice just to kind of summarize, yeah, the whole process that we've been on over the last 8 weeks, and the real kind of customer journey and product life cycle. So starting with validating the problem, we then went into validating the offer and how this really resonates with the niche. Then thinking about taking a step back and thinking it more strategically, in terms of planning and how this would potentially become a viable business, and looking at different tools like lean canvas, team typology, and how you would then build this out in the future. And then going back into kind of validating the prototype, speaking to end users, getting those validation calls in and start testing PMF. So it's been a busy 8 weeks, but I will, I guess now summarize kind of how that's played out for me and my problem statement. So the problem that we were solving, or I was solving, was professional women feeling stuck in their careers, in the current roles. They want to change careers or make a movement, maybe in industry or something, but they don't know how to start or how to do it. This is quite a personal problem and something that I think I definitely feel like I am the niche. Personally, I feel like it is an acute problem, but it's still important to test that and get some kind of validation from other customers. So the first objective, as I said, was really to validate that this is a real acute problem, and setting out here was a target to kind of identify the issues really through 5 discovery calls, and also validate that acquisition channel. And for me, I was focusing on professional networks, things like LinkedIn, but actually going a level deeper, so looking at kind of targeting women in tech communities, for example, Albright, which is a women membership platform, and I really thought that was going to be the best way to acquire potential users. So in reality, what I did achieve was in fact 5 discovery calls, and also multiple informal conversations. You can see on the right here the kind of the template we used when it came to running those discovery calls, with kind of quick notes, very structured conversations, and then laddering that back up to kind of your key frustrations and key opportunities that we saw as areas to then further explore as a product. I think a key learning for me was that word of mouth definitely was more effective than as an acquisition channel. It's very hard to find someone who is feeling stuck in their career because it's not something people are outwardly talking about. But once I started talking to people, everyone seemed to know someone who could resonate with this issue, and through that I managed to get quite a lot of interaction, which was great. And some key learnings that came out for me that was clear that I wanted to like expand on and discover, like go a little level deeper in, was around confidence and self-belief. So very much an emotional barrier, as well as kind of the kind of more physical hard skills to changing careers. It felt like starting was the hardest part. People were a bit stuck and a bit overwhelmed. They didn't know what to do. And it felt like a high risk move. So people, there's a lot at stake when you're already kind of maybe quite progressed in your current career. So these were kind of the 3 learnings that I took and continued to research further. And then building on our second objective, so validating what we offer as a product really resonates with our niche. So focusing on those women wanting to change careers. And the focus here was really to, I guess, one, differentiate what our product offering would be versus other competitors using the Blue Ocean strategy, focusing on that product story canvas and product vision for alignment, and really digging down into like what is our value, and what is the problem we're trying to solve, and then ultimately driving that into a kind of sign up conversion, and measuring outreach and trying to get over 5%. So the MVO I landed on was discover your true potential with our community of experts and change makers. It definitely took me a few iterations to get to this point. I think I learned that we don't necessarily need to call out what the niche is in your MVO, for example, because it's quite clear through the MVO who we're trying to target, and then really focusing on, okay, what is our USP and what is our differentiation. So I ran the Blue Ocean strategy. It really got me thinking about who my competitors would be, and not thinking just specifically like LinkedIn or more obvious competitors, but actually thinking about books, for example, and things that aren't necessarily digital, and how that also ladders up. The product story canvas was really, really great just to keep me on track in terms of, okay, what is the call to action? Where does our product fit in? And ultimately, what is the end goal, and like that aspirational need that we want to kind of sell almost, making sure that it's compelling, and inspiring to people, and less kind of more of the tactical, tangible outcomes. So you can see my landing page here on the right and my sign up form, and I achieved some really positive engagement. So I posted once on LinkedIn to my network. I got 3.5 thousand impressions, which linked to 133 clicks. Some really positive reactions on LinkedIn, which isn't necessarily sign up, but still great to see that engagement, and that led to 8 signups. So that's a 6% conversion rate. Definitely, I think there was definitely more I could do, but I think this initially was a great positive kind of signal, and made me think that I could continue and pursue this further. The next step was really around that kind of strategic planning, thinking long term, and thinking about how you have this idea, this offer, how does it then ladder up into a business essentially. So we did things like lean canvas, and focusing really on what are the costs, what is the revenue streams, what is really your unique value proposition, and I think it really helped kind of really simplify what we're trying to offer, and then ultimately how to get started, like what is that one thing we're going to focus on to initially launch this product. That then kind of moved us on to the prototype, and thinking really for this was around value risk. We know that kind of once we start thinking about communities, which was really the USP here, that we're focusing on value, and that people are getting that community, getting value out of that community as quickly as possible. And you can also see the team topology here as well. So we ran a kind of crazy tens initiative to start ideating at this stage. I think this was the first moment we started thinking about solutions, and at that point I think really clear on what the value was going to be, and what we wanted kind of the users to experience. So it was only at this stage we started thinking about solutions, and I think what was clear that there was many ways that we could cut this. There was a lot of really exciting opportunities around kind of CV review, how you can use AI, but I think then we needed to take a step back and think, okay, well, what is the MVP at this stage? Like, what can we just get and test with least kind of time, and also a no code feature. So very much focused on this mentoring, and matching and meeting people as our initial kind of solutions. So digging into this a little bit deeper, I then spent a lot of time on a customer journey map before and why and then ultimately wireframes before we then started thinking about that initial prototype. I think some key learnings that came out for me at this point was very much focusing on the customer journey from both sides of the marketplace, and also remembering like what is their core value from each side, and how far along in the journey are they getting before they reach that core value. So once you start mapping it, you quite realize that, you know, there's at least 4 or 5 clicks that to get to their core value. Could we shorten that, for example? And are they really kind of meeting that true core value essentially? So that was a really interesting learning. And then I think also one thing was around kind of factoring loyalty and retention throughout the customer journey. So it's great that you're focusing on signups, you know, creating profiles, getting that first interaction, but throughout the customer journey, we should be really thinking about like, why would they continue staying on this platform, on this community, rather than moving on to LinkedIn and you know, or other competitors, for example. So making sure that, yeah, we're staying relevant, and keeping retention in mind. That then led me to doing some basic wireframes. I think it's ultimately going to be a kind of marketplace and community, online community. So I think there's a lot of formats that already exist that work well. So it was really taking inspiration from current products and existing products, and kind of tweaking and learning and ultimately validating from then on. So then finally, objective 4 was really validating our solutions. So focused on building a prototype, and getting in those validation calls. So I built the website on Softer, using no code app, and very much focused on like the landing page, and I think at this point it's making sure that first interaction is as compelling as possible, really lands the value that the customer is getting, and makes it really clear what our USP is, because ultimately we're asking people to sign up, hand over their data, so we want to really make that landing page as compelling as possible. And then you can also see some screenshots here of kind of what it would look like once you've signed up. So round 4 validation calls achieved a PMF score of 50%. So they were kind of would be marginally or very disappointed if it didn't exist. And really the anecdotal feedback was really positive, and people were saying, well, you should definitely continue this. This would be great. I wish I had this if they had pivoted before. So yeah, really positive engagement at this point. And just some learnings and feedback that I got at this stage was around, you know, giving people a bit more content to help convert to sign up. So some samples of who the mentors would be, for example. A bit more detail for mentors or coaches on that side of the marketplace to understand like what their expectation is in terms of like time commitments. And then just leveraging that more emotional language. We know it's a really emotional, acute problem, so I should definitely be dialing that up to help resonate with customers and build that trust. So yeah, finally, I rattled through that, but I think if I take a step back and really think about my key learnings and takeaways from the last 8 weeks, I've split it into kind of product and personal. Product, I think, always start with the problem, not the solution, and really, make sure that you're tackling something that's acute. Build, test, iterate, move quickly. I think, you know, done is definitely perfect. Done is definitely better than perfect. And always go back to the question, does it add value? I think, you know, we can get fixated on like little features or something that we think is cool or cute, and actually, is it going to add value to the end user? I think is always a good question to have. And then for me, like early on in this journey, I think for me it was remembering what is product and what is UX and design. I could get quite fixated on colors and buttons and, you know, structures of the website, and actually, again, it was like, does this add value? Do the customers get it? Okay, good, move on. So for me, that was definitely a learning experience. And then from a personal side, I think it was really about getting comfortable with uncomfortable. It's been a steep learning curve, but and at times I've really really questioned myself, but definitely, yeah, it's great to see like the progress I've made over 8 weeks. People are really willing to help. I think, there's absolutely no harm in putting yourself out there. People are really receptive, which I was worried about when I started. I think always go back to your objective. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? And don't get distracted by, again, things that are too overly complex, for example. And finally, it won't be perfect, but keep persisting. And yeah, I think that's quite a humbling thing to remember. And again, it goes back to kind of, yeah, build, test, iterate, and keep moving. So yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. I'll just quickly go through feedback on the case study, and then, as I said, we'll sort of slow down and talk about general next steps, Laura. So I thought generally really good, and yeah, pretty impressive considering you don't have a product background. Like you're very comfortable clearly explaining these concepts. Just going through specific slides, like I love the process slide. I think it was great to just generally reframe things in simple terms. Like you just had below, okay, validate the offer. What does that mean? It's like, does somebody want this? Question mark. Good. I always put it in simple terms. Even when you're like 20 years time, super experienced product person, keep things as simple as possible. On the OKR one, yeah, it was like very clear explanation of what the objective, why the key results made sense. It's always very powerful actually sharing like surprising learnings that you had or from the discovery calls themselves. Like, oh, word of mouth seemed to be a thing, because it actually really helps you sell. First, it keeps people engaged, but it also helps you sell the value of discovery. Like you're going to find when you work in product, people are skeptical because it sounds like fluffy. It's like, well, why are we, paying to just speak to people? So just showing like this has business value is really important in any way. And also just showed a good depth of learning, actually. You very quickly like got it. You sort of understood like what we're trying to achieve here and went deeper rather than just surface level. On the OKR 2, good. I think one small thing was, you sort of read off the slide a bit there and said, quote, the focus here was to differentiate with the blue ocean. What does that actually mean in simple terms, right? It's okay, we're basically trying to find a gap in the market so that we can enter the market and have some early success. And that's what we're really trying to do. So again, use simple terms and give a bit of caveat with like, what's the intention here? Why am I talking to you about this topic, for example? MBA, I love the validation. I think it was awesome that again, it's so easy to just like blindly follow what we tell you to do. You wrote clearly quite thought-provoking LinkedIn posts. You got all of that traction. You got lots of survey signups as well, which is great. That's the kind of thing with this kind of business, like post on LinkedIn every day, and you're going to start building trust and getting lots of eyes on. So that's your acquisition channel. Blue Ocean, I would have liked to see a breakdown of this. Key question for me is either an interviewer or as your boss is going to be, okay, great, like you've got to come up with some interesting insights, but how are we actually going to capture the market? Like, is this actually going to work out? Similar with the lean canvas, like I want to know, okay, have you really thought through the revenue model? Why do you think that specific one you're talking about makes sense versus all the other ones we could do? So just giving someone confidence that you've got a business hat on rather than just the sort of the user empathy hat. Roadmap, yeah, good. Just you're going to find this when you start working. Be careful with solutions, saying it's about solutions, because people will latch on to that. You want to really emphasize, no. We want to be clear on outcomes. That's the key takeaway, is like, here are the key outcomes we want to deliver in order to deliver value for the user and for the business. And then final comments. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you've built something with no code and actually you've built and tested something, because there are, product people with 10, 15 years experience that have never actually like worked on something. And it's a landing page, sure, you build it out, you got time to build it out in future. And that's going to be really powerful in terms of like having just a good understanding of what we're really trying to do when we build and test something. And then final thing, yeah, I love that you customize principles and learning. Usually that's most junior people just sort of copy, but you clearly thought about like, what do I actually believe? What are my reflections and learnings? And then that's a really good habit for life as well as product leadership. So I think next steps, there's two sides of this, right? I think one is obviously, well, first general observation, like you would not know that you have not worked as a product manager before. Like you clearly have a good foundation. Today exemplified that. Again, take discovery, learnings. You sort of went quite deep, where most people actually stay quite surface level. Any of the core concepts, you sort of understood what we're trying to do. MBO, for example. I think next steps is now just really packaging yourself, like selling yourself effectively with this case study, with the CV, with the hero's journey. Keep leveraging your network. I'd say keep developing that product out so you've got a really strong example to point to. And my action point for that, in fact, is going to be, let's book a call in. Just share my usual Calendly link. Let's book a call in, let's say in a week or two. And I'd like you to have sent me your CV, having watched the CV video. And then in that call, we'll go over the hero's journey and, which kind of roles to start applying for, quite simply. And then the second action point for me was on, let me get my notes up. Just prepare yourself. Like when you go into that role, and many of the PMs probably talked about this with you, be very prepared to adapt everything. So take strategic roadmap. Most companies just have a big list of features. It doesn't really make sense. So, you can't just go in and be like, hey, there's this cool new strategic roadmap, let's do that. And everyone's going to go, yeah, great, nice idea. There's going to be that, as with every business and every role, right? Convincing them, the storytelling, the influence part of it, workshopping, all of these other skills that we talked about, and try to give you this sort of the adaptable principles and frameworks. You're going to have to, work out how to fit it in. Now, like you're clearly smart and you put work in, so you're not going to struggle with that, but that will be the reality of the role. But nothing to be worried about, but something to just prepare yourself for.
Yeah. Sure.
What do you feel in terms of next steps, specifically like around your product skill set? Like, any things you want to focus on moving forward? And obviously our goal is to get, the role itself.
Yeah, I think for me, next steps is, I think really like start learning, like start practicing case studies. And I think that might for interviews, and I think that might quite clearly highlight any gaps.
I think so, yeah.
I think the thing that's obvious is like, oh, okay, like agile or scrum methodologies, or those things that like are in job descriptions, and I necessarily don't like have that as like a tick box. But I'm not sure that that's like a huge barrier, but something I want to like.
Something we'll talk about that in the next call actually is exactly, there are going to be companies that are like, you haven't managed people in a product capacity. There are others who are going to go, no, this person seems really proactive, they clearly deliver. And that's, those are the good companies as well. You want to look, because they're worried about impact, not on like how many features we can build next week.
Yeah, definitely. So so I think reading job descriptions and start, like you said, like packaging myself up and like thinking about my experience and how I can package my existing experience into more product focused examples. So
let's do that as our action step then. Book a call in with that link. Let's say 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah. I'd like you to have already done your CV based on the CV video. Okay. And then we'll drill into that a bit. We'll drill into your hero's journey and talk about sort of roles to apply for. And start moving with it.
Great, amazing.
Awesome. Well, look, great work with this as well. And we'll catch up in a week or two.
Great. Thanks, Henry. Good luck with the move.
Thanks for it. Thank you. Bye.